the issue is that the oil markets, it seems, are resisting any movement beyond $95 a barrel. There has been quite a lot of speculation that oil would cross the triple digit mark, $100 a barrel mark. It may go even 110 or 120. Those sort of discussions are going on. And those are credible discussions. People with inside understanding of the market are saying that. But what we are seeing these days is that there is a resistance at around $95 a barrel. And that is because of a few reasons. The first one is the inflation. High oil prices is stoking inflation, which is a cause of concern throughout the globe. So that is one thing, because you see, oil goes, petroleum goes into virtually everything. Your family budget goes up if the petroleum goes up. That is inflation is a major cause of concern for governments all around the globe, and Pakistan is no exception to it. And what is this resulting in? How the governments are responding to it, especially in the OECD world, in the developed world, is that they are increasing the interest rates. Now, when money supply goes tighter, interest rates go higher. What does it ultimately lead into? Lesser consumption. So the governments are increasing the interest rates so that people are not borrowing a lot of money, and resultantly the economy could slow down. So in order to avoid inflation, they are increasing interest rates, and that could lead to economic slowdown. And once this economic slowdown happens, then the consumption of petrol or gas, as we call it here, would definitely go down. And once the consumption globally goes down, prices would be impacted. Now, let's look at it from a little different angle. The market fundamentals were already not too tight, and the output cuts that has been announced by OPEC plus, that means including Russia, and the additional voluntary output cuts by Saudi Arabia of 1 million barrels a day, the additional cuts, and of Russia by another 300,000 barrels a day. So 1.3 million barrels a day were withdrawn from the market. Now, for the last 2-3 months, this is happening. So what does that indicate? It does indicate that the consumption is not too high. And by slowing down the output, by slowing down the supply into the market, they are trying to keep the oil prices at a certain level, higher levels. So that is being reacted, the governments are reacting through interest rate hike, which might result in slowdown, and ultimately the economy would go down further, and that would mean that even the 1.3 million barrels of additional voluntary output cut may not help in keeping the markets at the current levels. So this is a very interesting scenario, seesaw game going on. And there have been some indications that the Saudis are thinking of unwinding cuts much before the anticipated period. It might happen any day. There are indications. No one can assure, no one knows of it. Perhaps the only man who knows is Prince Mohammed bin Salman and Prince bin Salman, the Saudi petroleum minister. But there are indications that the Saudis may unwind it. So that is the reason markets are a bit iffy, and the prices are not reaching the heights that was being projected or that have been discussed earlier by many analysts. So at this stage, there is a resistance of at around $95 a barrel. And Saudis are also aware of one very interesting thing, that if the prices go up, considerably up, beyond the consumption capacity of a common man on these streets, then this could lead to a demand destruction. So while there is this pressure on supplies from the OPEC side, there is a demand pressure or demand destruction also taking place. And these two are trying to balance out. And that is the reason why we see the markets today at a certain lower level. But again, this cannot be said with certainty that the prices would remain at this level. There is always a possibility, because analyzing oil markets is a very difficult thing. Any variable could change. For instance, if the Chinese economy jumps up tomorrow from they have been lagging behind in some senses. If that jumps up tomorrow, that would be the dragon that would be pulling the economy out of the scenario it is right now in. and oil consumption would go up. So for the time being, there is a resistance at $95 a barrel, and there is an indication that the Saudis could unwind the output cuts, the economic slowdown, interest rates hike, inflation. All these are contributing towards the flattening of the oil markets at this level, at this moment. Pakistan is a little different scenario. All around the globe, let me concede that the prices that one gets at the gas stations or the petrol stations are not necessarily the market price. There is a lot taxes on every liter of petrol or gas that we buy on the gas station. So the prices that is being depicted in the gas stations in Pakistan does not necessarily reflect the actual market prices of oil. It is to a certain extent the same in everywhere, but in Pakistan it is beyond, at this moment, how I understand it, how I look at it, it is beyond the capacity of a common man to really accept that sort of pressure. So even if the prices go down, the issue would be, would the government of Pakistan be ready to pass on that benefit to the common man on the street? The understanding generally is, the history tells that it has not been the case. In many cases, despite markets going down, the benefit has not necessarily been passed on to the common man, to the consumer. Or even if it has been passed on, it has not been passed on to the extent the market has gone down. So governments have used any buffer emerging out of lowering oil prices to balance their budgets, to increase their consumption. So we are in a different scenario, in a different situation. The prices should go down in Pakistan as well, but whether it would go down in Pakistan or to what extent remains a big question.